Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast, where we help you embrace the most courageous version of yourself. My name is Marie, and I'm an adventure seeker who is obsessed with following the joy and creating more freedom. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connection, join me on the quest to discovering how we can live a more magical and memorable life. Hello nerds, how are you doing? I'm doing really good. As I record this, it's Monday morning and I've chosen the morning out of the year when they're testing the fire alarm in my building. So you might hear some beeps in the background, but I'm gonna give it a try anyway. So let's cross our fingers for 30 minutes of silence. That's right, 30 minutes, because I've heard your feedback. So I'm gonna try to make the episodes a bit longer and to go deeper to make sure that you have time to finish washing your dishes or folding your laundry or walking around the block. Actually, today's episode is about a subject that everyone can relate to: outdated defenses. Or the shields that once kept us safe but have turned into more of a burden. We're gonna get really deep and I hope you will enjoy it. I promise it's going to end on an optimistic note, but first we have to take a little walk on the dark side. So let's dig in. I've been in a group coaching program for almost a year now, and in one of the early sessions, one of the fellow members was talking about how she wanted to be able to speak up more at her job as a nurse in a hospital. She said something like, "I know I'm qualified, I have so much experience, I'm smart, I know things, and when the time comes to share my ideas or solutions out loud, I just can't do it. I stay quiet and then I come home at night and I'm angry with myself." At that moment, our coach said, "Was there a time or a moment in your life where it served you to be quiet, where it was helpful for you to be quiet?" The nurse said, "Well, yes, when my dad got violent." And we all sat there in silence, taking it in. Making herself small did keep her safe for so long. It was a necessary shield for an important time in her life. But now, as an adult, it was weighting her down. It was limiting her in her potential. It was keeping her wings from spreading wide and being the awesome nurse she wanted to be for her team, and she knew she could. So, think about difficult times in your life. Or not necessarily difficult times, but you know those small, tiny moments that are engraved in your memory forever. What did you need to tell yourself or to believe at that time or at that moment in order to feel better, or just in order to get through it? Do you still carry that belief today? If not consciously, does it show up unconsciously in your behavior, your thinking, your relationships? Does it get in the way of the person you want to be? Does it keep you from being your best self? These are hard questions. And sometimes those beliefs are so ingrained and unconscious that they are hard to spot. So I will give you a series of 4 examples from my own life, and then we'll get back to you. All right? So let's start with example number 1. Going back in the 90s when I was a kid, I had an awkward time making friends at school, especially in primary school. But it didn't matter because I was friends with the kids on my street, almost all boys. They didn't talk to me on the playground at school, but we'd play together on the evenings and on weekends. We'd play soccer on my front neighbor's lawn, we'd play hide and seek, or we'd play guns. Oh, here's the beep. Can I speak now? When we played guns, we wanted to sound American or something, so we all called each other Joe. I remember feeling shy because I couldn't make a proper gun sound. I don't think I still can. When it rained, we played video games in their basement. They played Halo or something, and no, it was James Bond. They played James Bond. I remember because you could go and hide in the toilet cubicles. They played James Bond and hockey. I don't think I ever played, but I sat there and I watched them. We had built a cabin behind my neighbor's house, and we liked to meet there after school. So one day I ran to the cabin and they were all sitting there. They were with the new girl. I think her name was Andréane or something. And they said, "We're not your friends anymore." And that was it. I walked home and these friendships were over, just like this. I wonder what the 9-year-old Marie needed to tell herself in that moment in order to feel better. Probably something like, "I'm fine on my own." The same thing happened in early high school, where I grew really close to one of the new students. He was kind of weird like me. He didn't really know how to talk to people either. We got along really well. I'd go to his place and we would lie on his bed and listen to Celine Dion. I had long dinner conversations with his parents, and I loved it over there. Until one day, he made a girlfriend and she didn't like our friendship. So she came to see me. She took me in a corner of a classroom and said, "Do not go anywhere close to him ever again." She probably told him the same thing because from that day on, he stopped talking to me. And just like this, our close friendship was over. What did the 14-year-old Marie need to tell herself in that moment in order to feel better, to feel okay about what just happened? Probably something along the lines of, "I'm going to be fine on my own." So I became very independent. And the independence is a good thing in many ways. It allows you to enjoy your own company and to walk across an entire country, for example. But it's not so good when you need help and you cannot ask for it. It's not so good when it puts a thin and opaque layer of coldness between you and other people. I've worked through this one over time, and I have some wonderful close friendships now. But for quite a while, I kept a distance between me and other people. A subtle distance, but still, it was there. So, are you ready for example number 2? Still when I was in high school, I was in the after-school drama club. We were doing a Disney-inspired play one year, and my friend had the singing role of Jiminy Cricket. One day, she had to miss practice, and the teacher asked if someone could take her place just for today. I raised my hand, wanting to help, and he laughed in my face. "You? No, you cannot sing for shit," he said in front of the whole class. I remember exactly what I wore and where I sat, because I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me in. What did I need to tell myself in that moment in order not to melt into a little puddle? 2 things. First, do not ever sing. And second, do not ever put yourself out there unless you're 100% sure it's going to be well received. And guess what? We can never be 100% sure. It was one small moment, and it's still with me 20 years later. First, I hate karaoke. I attach what should just be fun to embarrassment. I know intellectually that most people in the audience don't really care whether I'm a good or a bad singer. They're probably too drunk to notice. But to me, the idea of singing in front of people literally feels like I might die. Second, and most importantly, I have a hard time putting myself out there to this day. I spend way too much time thinking about what people are going to think when and if I do. This is a huge obstacle for me, who wants to become a successful coach and public speaker. I'm getting better at it, but not without all the exhausting mind drama of questioning every single thing I put out there. Are they going to think I'm making it too much about me? Is it really going to help anyone? Am I qualified to talk about this? I don't have the proper scientific words. Maybe I shouldn't do a podcast like this. I'm not a therapist after all. You get the gist. Instead, I could just put myself out there and trust that the impact I have when I stand in my truth is way more important than the disapproval of a few strangers here and there. Example number 3 is a bit different. Sometimes our beliefs don't come from a specific moment, but from our parents or caretakers or environment. They're carried from generations to generations until someone breaks the cycle. For example, my mom didn't go to college. She grew up on a farm driving tractors and doing manual labor. When she met my dad, an urban folk, she was told that she wasn't good enough for him, a country girl. My dad hadn't gone to university either, but he'd done a technical course in civil engineering. Together, they started a business that slowly but surely became very successful. My mom was the one taking care of the finances, and many times in her career, she was dismissed for not having a proper education. People just assumed that she couldn't possibly do what she did and be so smart with numbers without having gone to university. I saw my mom get furious about such assumptions. My dad, on the other hand, was the visionary who went out to meet potential clients and to sign projects. He sat at tables with men who had degrees and masters and were well-spoken. Sometimes he sat with them pretending he knew what the hell they were saying and wondering how to eat the weird fancy food on the plate in front of him. My parents pushed really hard for me to go to university and to speak English fluently, to make sure I was well equipped to be a citizen of the world so I wouldn't feel small like they did at times in their career. But even though I have 2 degrees and I speak 2 languages, I believe I carry some of their shame within me. I didn't grow up listening to quote-unquote good music or reading classics. We don't have intellectual conversations about the intersection of historical... I don't know, I can't even make something up. I judge myself as less than, next to people who have good taste in music, who can reference classic literature, can I say that word right? And all of that stuff. I'm never going to be this person, even if I try. So what's the belief I needed to adopt to move through the world with that shame inside of me? Well, don't hang out with intellectuals or people you perceive as intellectuals. And if you do, stay quiet. And if they question you, get defensive. That's very limiting when, for example, I'm around my partner's friends, who I perceive as a bit more intellectual than I am. And I can't be my whole self for fear of their reactions. It puts up unnecessary barriers in conversations with people that I meet that might be wonderful, but that my brain has labeled as quote-unquote too smart for me. Instead, I could just own who I am and let whoever's not impressed walk away and hang out with those who do like me and don't mind my love of Celine Dion and who even enjoy my clear and simple way to express myself. All right, last example. Example number 4. I was quite a hairy teenager. That's right. I got laughed at in high school. This dude called Jan, and yes, it's his real name. He would sit next to me in gym class and whisper mean things about my hairy legs. I didn't care about my hair. I just wanted Jan to stop. But my mom wanted me to feel better, so as soon as she could, she took me to the laser hair removal clinic. I remember sitting there at 16, discussing the treatment with the practitioner and with my mom. They said armpits, legs, thighs, bikini line had to be done. I said I didn't want to do the bikini line. I didn't feel comfortable. But they said that I didn't understand now and I would thank them later for going ahead with it. Although they were both very well-meaning, I didn't feel like I had a choice in that moment. So I cried under the UV glasses and proceeded to visit the clinic 8 times in the following year. What did I need to tell myself sitting on that chair in order to stop crying and to move forward? Probably something along the lines of, "Ooh, body hair must be really bad. Disconnect from your body, suck it up, and you'll be fine." By the way, the joke is I still have hair on my knees, bikini line, and armpits because it turns out I was a bit too young for the treatment to work. Something to do with hormones. But I'm no expert. Now I ask myself, how has that belief affected me since? Well, for one, I had a bit of an unhealthy obsession with body hair long after high school. In college, a friend and I did a whole zine on the topic. It was called Over Hair, a Publication. Do I need to say it again? Over Hair, a Publication. We had a lot of fun making this and watching the teachers' reactions throughout the process. But there was a strong aftertaste of revenge on my part. A desire to provoke and to make people feel uncomfortable. I had to work through a lot of shame, and I still do. Other sentences I've heard about my body along the way are things like a close friend telling me I'd be so much more beautiful if I wore makeup. A roommate in university telling me I'd be more attractive if I walked normally and if I danced more softly. I tried listening to other people's advice and walking differently, putting makeup on, getting rid of body hair, but I felt like an alien, like I was betraying myself. I had even less of an idea of how to be and how to talk to people. All those little sentences did was contribute to solidifying the belief I'd started developing in gym class with Jan's mean whispers and on that chair in the beauty clinic. Distance yourself from your body is not enough and is not a safe place to be. Now that's the belief I struggle with the most to this day. And I know many people out there struggle with this one as well. I have a real hard time taking care of my physical self. Self-care is alright when it's related to the mind and to the heart. But to the body? No. It's all resistance for me. It's all a drag. Sometimes I think it would be so much easier if I could just be a mind and a heart, kind of like a creative blob just floating around through life. Like the souls in the new Pixar movie, Soul. Just like cute little blobs floating around. They don't have legs to shave or food to make. Why? Well, maybe because I don't know what I do for me versus what I do for others. And why would you feel safe in a home where you've had people just barge in and move your furniture around and add their ugly decorations? We've been taught that our body, especially women, our home don't belong to us. Or it does. But you need to keep it clean and tidy because inspectors can come in at all times to comment on the job you're doing. But I'm no longer a defenseless teenager. I'm safe now. We're safe. I'm surrounded by loving friends and a loving partner. I can put up boundaries if needed. I don't need this shield to protect myself anymore. And to tell you the truth is pretty heavy. The heaviest one I carry. It's rooted deep, deep, deep inside of me and I'm slowly untangling it. There are many more of those small moments that I could think of. Tons more. They pile up over time and the beliefs that are created along with them to protect us in the moment don't just go away when we don't need them anymore. They stick around just in case. Kind of like a house that you fill up with stuff and then next thing you know you have to move and you're like, I didn't realize I had so much stuff. That's why we need to Marie Kondo our set of beliefs all the time. For the hikers out there listening, it's as if you'd keep your old filthy pairs of trail runners or boots in your backpack. Surely they were useful once. Sure, you need to be thankful to each and every single pair of shoes, but they're just slowing you down now. One of the reasons why they're so hard to get rid of is that we have an emotional bond with them. At the end of my Pacific Crest Trail thru hike, my mom looked at my shoes, which had big holes in them, and wanted to put them straight in the trash. And I was like, no way, no, what are you doing? These shoes got me through a storm. These shoes were there for me when I needed them. But it's the same thing with the beliefs that get us through the hard times. They're ingrained in our identity. They feel like they're a part of us, like that's just who we are. Oh, I'm just an insecure person. Oh, I'm just quiet. I'm lazy. This is just who I am. I don't do karaoke. I don't read classics. Nah, it's not for me. As if we were born this way and there was no way to change. But no, it's just a wall you needed to build at a time in your life to save yourself from a storm. That storm might have been a violent parent, like I mentioned in the first story. a traumatizing situation, racism, sexism, abuse, tiny little hurtful comments. You needed these walls to protect your heart, your sanity, your dignity. You needed these walls to keep moving forward. But do you still need them? Is there still a storm on the other side of the wall? Or is there a beautiful blue sky and your walls just blocking all the sunlight? Chances are you are safe now. Not because the world is a better place than it used to be. No. There's still awful things going on everywhere. But because you're no longer a child and you have access to tools that can help you create a feeling of safety no matter what goes on. You can learn to process difficult emotions. You can put things in perspective. You can take a breath. You can walk away. You can say no. You can zoom out and see the bigger picture. You can focus on what's good in the world. You can surround yourself with loving people. You can ask people to leave. You know that there is no mean people, only humans who weren't given enough love. You can be your own safety. You can be your own pillow fort. So let's look at the walls we've built, thank them for staying strong for so long, and then take their bricks and build something beautiful with them instead. All right? Have a beautiful, creative week. And please join me on the Self-Growth Nerds Facebook group where I teach you how to craft the meaningful life you've been dreaming of but are too scared to turn into a reality. I hope to see you there. And please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a review if you like this thing I'm doing here. This will help others find the podcast, and God knows everyone craves a bit more depth in their daily life. So I thank you in advance for sharing the good news, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye. You just listened to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I hope you enjoyed. We publish an episode every Monday, so make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified. I want to thank my friend Etienne Galano for editing this, and I want to thank you, kind-hearted souls, for doing the inner work necessary to grow into your truest self and make the world a better, more beautiful place. My name is Marie, and I will talk to you next week.